So today I figured I would do a comprehensive guide on all the combos that you can use for Dransword. A little backstory on me. I really don't care what the meta is and don't believe in it, so it doesn't affect me. What I aim to do with this video in particular is to actually show you guys some unique sets that I use for Dransword that work really well. So we have 9 in total, and I really think you guys are going to like some of these because some of them are pretty unconventional. So starting us off, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with one of my all-time favorite combos for Dransword, and this was one of my OG combos when I first started, to kind of make Dransword be better than most of the other attackers people were using, running low, flat, and flat. That is Dransword, 380 and Orb. Now why Orb, not Ball? Well, Ball will tilt and then typically fall back down or kick out. Orb, however, on Dransword's blade shape, Orb helps it to stand back up and stand correctly. So as a result, even though you'll get some tilt, which is good for you to behave defensively while utilizing stamina, because this kind of works as a defensive with the blade shape. It works as like a defensive stamina bay. It will allow you to actually get some tilt, right, and then kind of correct. Also, Ball tends to be super hyper mobile when you first launch it, whereas Orb tends to be stationary and very stable. So wherever you're launching Orb, I've just found that this works really well and people are not quite expecting it, and you're not repeating parts. The 380 ratchet is there because if somebody has a high up defensive bay, like they're running high taper or an 80 ratchet, a lot of people don't talk about this, but I've been saying this for a while. Higher heights actually help you counter that. So you're still able to function as an attack bay and burst the defensive bays, outspin the defensive bays that would try to get rid of your insane attacks. So this works really well, and I really like it. The second set that I don't think I see too many people running, and I don't know why, is Dransword, right, with 480 and low flat. I really like Dransword on 480 low flat. The 480 ratchet adds more weight than 560. And also low flat lets all this weight just accelerate super duper fast. It ends up feeling a little bit like Phoenix Wing. And because you have high recoil, I don't know if you guys can see through some of that, but you can see it through here specifically in this hole. You're adding a slight imbalance whenever you add 4, but you're still giving it more stamina, 4 ratchet. So this actually ends up helping it a lot, not just burn out and lose all your stamina, which originally getting points in the tournament that I won with Dransword on my deck, this was kind of my go-to for a little while. And you guys can look at the efficacy of adding weight to a 480 ratchet in my Savage Bear video. It's not a bad idea on attackers because attackers are doing the attacking. They seldomly get burst. So 80 height ratchets actually work really well and are great as counter to defensive bays that usually are a little more difficult to deal with. Next up, let me take this apart and put it on the bays so that way you guys can actually see it on the bays. We have a pretty basic combo here that most of you are going to know, and that is 360 low flat. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, but obviously Dransword, great attack shape, right? It's a lot like the Slash Valkyries, and I would say it's a lot like actually a lot of the primary 3-prong attackers. So just keeping it fairly simple with this of 360 and attack, low flat attack bit. Low flat again helps it accelerate super fast. I will say you will fizzle out significantly faster than you would with 480. 480 helps keep you around a little bit longer. So, but this is really great for picking up KOs. Now, we have one of my personal favorite, just Wildboys coming up next in this one. And I think for the most part, most people are going to be like, huh? But this does work. It's just very difficult to control, and that is 460 and gear flat. Why gear flat? Oh, it can self KO. Yeah, but it ends up riding the X rail. This also helps to add weight to Dransword. Every little bit of plastic there, every 460 that you use adds weight to Dransword. This ends up being a pretty heavy bay. I wouldn't say as heavy as 480. I've noticed 480 still hits harder. But there are certain times where people are running things like, 960. And so this is a great workaround because you're actually knocking them out with weight. 960 Hexel Wizard Rod is so common that you want something consistent to just yeet it out the stadium and also yeet Phoenix Wing. And Whale Wave defensive, this seems to do it pretty darn well. It really just seems to yeet them out because 460, again, gives it stamina, gives it a slight imbalance while putting weight towards the outside, and then gear flat gives it tons of traction, tons of aggression, and it also simultaneously sounds like a very angry helicopter, which I think is awesome. Next up, we have the flagship of this channel, and what you guys know I love the most on Dransword, which is 460 and Rush. Tried this combo out. This was the first time I ever threw 460 on Dransword. And this would end up being my standard go-to set for Dransword. This would end up actually being how I utilize Dransword to win the tournament. This smacks hard, and it acts like a hammer, especially being on such a thin, tiny bit that's very flat. And it has pretty decent stamina thanks to both the 460 and Rush. So yeah, I don't know why they released this on Drawn Dagger. I would have preferred like a clear white Dransword bit and then like left that blue plastic here as dark as it is and just like maybe painted the blade white. Maybe that's a project. Maybe that's a project. Painting the outside of one of these Dranswords, blue Dranswords, painting it white. But yeah, no, it just really picks up KOs easy. It rotates fast and for a while. And I think that that's really, really cool. I think that that's really, really awesome. And it smacks things out the stadium, which is fantastic. Next up, we have 960 High Needle. Again, this is one of those bays that's going to take a little bit more experience, I think, and practice to actually utilize. But yeah, like, I mean, you could literally just spin the High Needle 960 and see that it kind of revolves on a tilt, which, again, is completely and totally fine. It's a defensive bay. We're going for a defensive setup. 960 because we don't have the best burst resistance here, but we do still have teeth. Unlike free ball, I'm calling it now, free ball won't be a great part. But yeah, the 960 makes this really hard to burst, and then married with High Needle, you get a lot of shielding tilt. Again, defensive types are meant to shield. So you're not really worried about stamina as much as you are with the orb set, right? But you most certainly are able to get a little bit, extra stamina if you can kind of hide because you are higher up. Overall, I'd say this is a solid set. I don't know that I would say that this is the best set for Dransword. I've used it and had quite a bit of success, but I like playing defensively. I will say, though, I do think it is a significantly harder set to use than the rest of these sets, truth be told. But if you want an easier to use set and something that's really good and fun, the old, faithful, reliable 560 and point. This is standard point, not gear point. Hear me out. This acts like a miniature Phoenix Wing, except the difference is that, in my opinion, I tend to have a better matchup against a lot of the defense types with this than I do at Phoenix Wing. Phoenix Wing tends to burn out its stamina, okay? Phoenix Wing will burn out its stamina. where, and you guys saw a little bit of that in my Savage Bear video, where my Shinobi beat it down and managed to take some of its stamina away. This is a little harder to do. I don't know why. I think it actually has to do with the blade shape. But this is pretty resistant against defense types. Gives you a huge advantage if they're running something like... right now, Hell's Chain is one of the best defense types out there. It's pretty good against Hell's Chain. I'd say it's good enough against Wizard Rod. It knocks it out, no problem. Defensive Wizard Rod, this does struggle a little bit. But, I mean, you are attempting to make it a balanced type. You are splitting its attack and stamina. It's very much like a flat bit, but it's like a flat bit with... well, with a point. So you are marrying the concepts of orb and you're marrying the concepts of flat. So I don't expect it, obviously, to function exactly the same. All the same, this is one of the highest rated combos and goes up with Rush in the orb set. It's goated, it's fantastic. I love it and I utilize it all the time. Second to last here, we have 360 and the Unite bit. Why the Unite? Well, the Unite is a bit like Ball. Let's actually go ahead and compare it to Orb. You can see it's pretty round. It's rounder than Taper. So we're getting a lot of stamina. And more importantly, we still have some aggression on this bit. Also, when this bit slides across the base stadium and makes contact with something, it's helping it to just knock it out. This is an aggressive stamina boy that is very reactionary. If they hit this, and it has high burst resistance too, if they hit this bad boy, it will come around the X-Rail and just knock them out, similar to a point set would. And honestly, again, it has a lot of stamina and it tends to stand itself up when it tilts. Also, it does shield. So I would say it's a better defensive attack stamina hybrid. It's like a three-way split where this bit actually gives it the ability to be launched on a tilt for defense and shield, to launch flat for aggression, to launch and hide, excuse me, especially in the TT Stadium, you know, towards the corner and just stall. So this is probably one of the most effective sets you can run on Dransword. It really likes Unite. It's a little less aggressive than Taper, but sometimes what you really want is to be less aggressive. But it can still be aggressive, and you can launch it right into the X-Rail. And last but not least, we have another defensive set, 370 dot. Why 370? Well, 370 puts us a little bit higher. This is for those of you who maybe don't want to have the steep learning curve, right? That is high needle. If you're looking for something a little bit more user-friendly and beginner-friendly to learn on, a well-worn dot, a dot that you've worn out a little bit, works perfectly. So 370 and dot again lets you tilt, self-corrects because of the little nubs, and oh man, this set works so good. The 370 height basically means that you're still higher up, but you're not quite at 80. You do, however, deal with other defensive bays pretty evenly. I would almost say that there's this weird thing that happens when it knocks back, where it almost just for some reason behaves like an attack type and then goes back to being a defense type. It's a bit of a weird behavior at first when I first started testing it, but then I realized it works really well against aggressive attackers. Phoenix Wing just tends to die to this, and you guys can go back and see my first ever upload. If you scroll down, you'll notice that is Wizard Rod on 460 dot. I think this is a really effective bay. I think this is really, really, really good. It's strange, sure, but again, if something works, it works. So yeah, that's gonna do it from me. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 whole sets that you can run on Dransword. At this point, I'm a master of Dransword. I've used it more than any of my other bays. It was my first, as a matter of fact, this Dransword here was my first Beyblade. My first Beyblade X. I absolutely love Dransword. I learned how to do every single trick. It has been on all of my competitive teams. This has been the most consistent performer on any team that I've put it on. Dransword is great. Dransword is amazing. And getting to make this video really feels good, really feels nice, because I get to share some of what I've learned how to use Dransword with you guys. And I've experimented with it all. I've experimented with Hexa. Hexa's okay as well. There are other bits you could use. I just wanted to give you guys the most solid that I've had the best luck with against meta being Phoenix Wing, Whale Wave, Drawn Buster, right? Shark Edge. Like, I wanted to give you guys that's another thing too. This will outspin Shark Edge every day. I still think Orb is just amazing. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me, guys. I hope you guys go out. Dransword is dirt cheap. He's $7 for a Dransword. He is a great tool. He can knock out things like Whale Wave Defense Set. He can knock out Wizard Rod. He's just a solid performer. And I hope that you guys, if you love Dransword the way I do, or maybe you don't have him and you're questioning whether or not you should get him, he is hands down a solid pick. He just requires some skill to use. But when you love Dransword, Dransword gets it done. You'll find the way. So that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to hear me go over 9 sets for my favorite Beyblade X Bay. And I will see you guys in the next video. Deuces.